Hello and welcome to my channel, Inner Journey with Meditation. I'm Doris. I was inspired to do this video. No, I wanted to do this video because I realized I speak a lot about consciousness. I've suddenly started talking an awful lot about consciousness, and I thought to myself, well, what if people think that I'm just talking about spirit guides? So I thought the best thing to do would be to perhaps to explain why I talk a lot more about consciousness and use the term consciousness rather than spirit guides, for example. So early on in our journey, early on in my journey, I told you I started meditating, and then I connected with my inner being. I had an inkling. Is it an inkling? I felt I had an inner being from what I had read. I'd listened to Abraham Hicks, I'd read Seth, and I thought, I have an inner being. There's definitely an inner being somewhere. And then through my third eye, I connected with, or at least I got messages. I got communication and messages via my third eye. And I've explained in one of my videos that the third eye is your mind's eye. So during meditation, I felt presence, I viewed through my third eye, and I started having a communication, to a dialogue with, I guess, what I believed was spirit guides. So in this communication was how I discovered crystals and crystal apothecary. During this time, it was actually quite fun, interesting, if you like, because every morning, just before the family woke up, I just sort of went into a sort of slight meditation, and I would have a quick dialogue with my spirit guides. And it would be it was things like, it was questions, it was things like, what should I do today, or what should I be aware of? What message have you got for me today? This was my question every morning. And usually I would get something like, I remember there was one day I had like a pack of biscuits. I saw a pack of biscuits. I was like, that's odd. So I sort of I took my kids out for a day out that day, and it turns out that we parked somewhere really far and from the main entrance of the activity, and on the way back the girls were so tired. I gave them the pack of biscuits, one by one, to help, just to give them enough strength to walk back up the hill to the car. And I thought, oh, that was quite nice. So we had this sort of game. The spirit guides, they had personalities, different personalities, and accents. I always felt that there was some sort of a voice or a personality, but there wasn't really a voice. So it was more like that. If I was having particular issues, it would be things like, why don't you just play more or something. In any case, one day there was a sort of a new presence, a new personality that came into the pack. I say a pack because there was just different spirit guides, different names and different personalities. But then there was one spirit guide, but she said she wasn't a spirit guide, and it was a she. And at this point, this is interesting, because I'm trying to give a timeline of how things happened, and sort of jumping back and forth here. But actually, I started with meditation, and I viewed through my third eye. But not long after that, I started to communicate via thought. So I'll think something and I'll get a response back. And this is why I'm able to say that this particular spirit guide, this last one that said she's not a spirit guide, this is why I say it's a she, because the thought that's presented back to me is not my thought. So I think a sentence, I think a question, and the response is in form of a female voice. And I remember, to start with, I'm like, I know that voice from somewhere, you know, like, oh, who's that voice? I just knew, like, it was a particular voice and that I'd heard, but I couldn't place it. But just to say, my other spirit guides, over time, no, not even over time, very shortly afterwards, they started to depart. They would say, you know, decided to say goodbye, and I was left with just this one spirit guide. I'm just calling her a spirit guide because she told me she's not a spirit guide. And I don't know how to explain this. She said, I am you. She was me. And I couldn't really understand that. It's like, no, I am not you. Who are you? But it took a while for me to get my head around the fact that she would give me all kinds of examples to help me understand this. She would say things like, you are a part of me, and at night time, you know, I would have dreams to try and explain how things were, and I would explain how things were to me, how I am her. So there was communication. There was an awful lot of educating me. It was communication via thoughts during the day, and at night it was communication via dreams. And it just took some time for that information to really set into my mind. And a lot of my videos is from some of this education, some of these things that she's taught me. I am you. That's what she said to me. I said, I'm not you. I don't know who you are. I said, I don't know who you are. Go away. And it were different ways. There were different ways. There were things like she would say things like, I am ancient and you are young. I am a parent and you are a child. It's just like, and it took several weeks, months actually, to be fair, for me to really understand that we were the same. She is another side of me, and I can communicate with her by just thinking. So I would sit and I would, so usually when I'm with my family, doing things with my family, I'm more focused outwards. That's what I want to say. What I'm saying, when I'm actively engaged with my family and doing things, I call it, I am focused outwards. When I'm speaking to people on the phone, I'm focused outwards. I am actively engaged in something. And usually I don't feel her. I want to say I don't feel her then. I'm not aware, that's it. I am not aware of her, right? But as soon as I just think, oh, I haven't seen her. I haven't thought of her. I haven't seen her, or I haven't thought of her. I don't see anything. As soon as I think to myself, like, oh, I wonder where she is, just like that. You know, so it's like she's always there, and it's almost like when my attention comes back in, then I am aware of her again. So a lot of this is usually when I'm cooking or cleaning, when I'm not engaged with somebody else, when I'm not engaged in conversation, when I'm with somebody else. So yes, when I'm sort of cooking by myself, cleaning by myself. It's funny, I do these things, and I think to myself, oh, this is mindfulness, isn't it? When you're by yourself, just slowly doing activities, you're thinking in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, or at least you're by yourself. So these activities are when we tend to have our conversation. So basically she told me, so basically she has told me everything about the oneness, about my connection, our connection to God, about well, in fact, all my videos, all my videos that I've put out so far, in terms of consciousness, in terms of inner being, all of it has been from my conversation with her. It's been from my it's been from what she's been teaching me, and I'll explain why I say she's been teaching me in a little while. But it's more like she is my access to infinite intelligence. She is my wider consciousness. She is my inner being. I have a name for her. I'm not sure I'm quite ready to share the name just yet. But let's keep talking. So the more I dialogue, the more conversations we had, the more I discovered things that I wanted to share. And the way this conversation goes is it's interesting in that I don't ask a question and write it down, because a lot of the conversations or the topics that I want to talk about comes from things that I'm interested in or things that I wonder about, you know, and they come in the most I want to say inopportune moments. And what I mean by that is, I've said to you just previously that I'm usually thinking to myself. I'm usually more inward when I'm cooking or cleaning or just doing a mindful activity. This is when most of our conversations happen, and in that time I'm not suddenly stopping, and I don't want to stop and go and get a pen and paper and write things verbatim from her. For one thing, she doesn't dictate. She doesn't dictate things to me to write. What I've taken to doing is to have my phone with me, and have my phone with me and use the voice recorder so that I can at least record what we talk about. That's one way. But again, the voice recorder would be useless to anybody, because number one is one-sided. You'd only hear one-sided. But the other thing you'd hear on the voice recorder will be things like, oh, that's what that means, because the way she teaches me is to have, she does not dictate. So information isn't presented to me. I wonder about a topic in a sort of question way. So you'd hear me say this in a lot of my video, in the first part of my video. I would say things like, I was wondering about this, and then the conversation went into this direction. It's usually that. It was more like, I just wonder if that tree is green. Things like that. I mean, I wasn't wondering about any tree being green. That's not what I'm interested in. But what I'm saying is, a lot of it obviously has to do with my daughter and things surrounding her, and how I found a crystal apothecary, and sometimes I wonder, well, how does this work? Because you've said this before. It's just a sentence, simple sentence to myself, and that simple sentence sort of grows tentacles, and different subjects just not appear, just different subject just grows from it, and it would go off a tangent, and I said, well, what about this? And an answer comes back, and then I said, well, it must be this. It's usually a two-way conversation where she wants me to get the answer for myself in the way that I understand it. Does that make sense? So for example, I think I did a video on onion, and it was the same thing. It was like, oh, so how are we always, this is me trying to understand our connection. And I said to you, well, she's always around, but when I'm engaged with somebody, I'm not aware of her. When I'm more inward in a mindful activity, she's there. Now, and the only way I could figure this out in my mind was an onion, to say, oh, but the onion is always attached, no matter what happened. And also in that onion, you have one layer that's in the physical plane, and that's me, and then the other layers must be, this is how I understand things. She didn't tell me it was an onion. The onion was my idea, but it was a way for me to understand how consciousness is always attached, always linked to the outer consciousness. That's one example. And I'm just saying to you that this is, and I think it's deliberate as well. It's deliberate that a lot of the times you will find that, well, in my view, because sometimes she said some stuff and I've gone to the dictionary. It's just like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. It can be complex. Consciousness has been around for like millions of years, and so they know everything. And really, it's deliberate that I should. It's deliberate that I should. Is it decipher? I should understand things in the simplest possible terms that make sense to me. And that is the way that I deliver my lessons or my information. I deliver my information the way it makes sense to me. So I am probably not as, fancy, but the information that I have and that I share is from my inner being. The next thing I wanted to address is the topics that we talk about. A lot of these is to do with my interest. What I like, what I'm interested in. I guess I'm not trying to solve world hunger, but what I'm trying to say is my interest is it's about me, my immediate family, and then it grows from there. First off, there is my daughter and her disability and the changes that we've noticed. And so you find that I always wonder about well, how does this bit work? And then it comes back into consciousness. I find I'm more interested now about the nature of consciousness. I'm more interested now about, well, why does consciousness do this? And why does it appear like that? What is it able to do? I'm interested in disabilities, especially the mental disabilities, just because my daughter has a lot of her disability was more neurological. You know, it was some sort of a neurological disorder. So I'm more interested in that side of things. A lot of my questions, you'll find a lot of our conversations is around that, and so my videos will be presented in such manner. Why? Because I thought, my daughter has an inner being. There are all these other people, everybody out there, they all have inner beings. So as far as I'm concerned, everybody has an inner being, right? This is how we're all made. I've just been able to communicate with mine. And in doing that, I found an answer. And I just believe that, I strongly believe that this is just one answer, you know, that I have. How many other answers are out there with everybody else? And with that, my other passion is for others to connect with their inner being. I so strongly believe that if everyone has an inner being, not even if, everyone, I know everyone has an inner being, it's not if, but if everyone can connect to their inner being, you will get to understand who you are. And when you understand who you are, you'll understand who everybody else is and what everybody else is. And when you do that, we can actually start to effectively start to move forward. You know, fighting your neighbor because, you know, your neighbor is Irish or some stupidness like that. Do you know what I mean? You will start to look at your neighbor and see them for what they truly are. And you will start to ask questions like, well, I am this type of person, consciousness, and this is what we do, this is what we've come here to do. What have you come here to do? Where is the, you know, the synergy in what? And that's the thing, we're all here to present like problems and answers and everything. I'm doing videos on this, and if you just understood that and how we've got synergies in the way we're here, we can start focusing on solving actual problems rather than fighting each other, you know. So yes, I have a passion I want people to connect with their inner being. My passion is to understand how the mind works with consciousness. That's one. You know, the different consciousness, the different inner beings out there. You know, what are you doing? How can we solve our problems, daily problems, major problems, minor problems? How can we do that? But we can only do that if we are all now finding a way to dialogue with our own inner self, because that's where our answers are, you know. Consciousness is different from spirit guides. There are spirit guides, but your inner being and your higher self creates spirit guides for you. And they are both electromagnetic energy, because consciousness is electromagnetic energy. I could go on and on, but I do need to stop now. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.